Hey, and welcome back to another episode of The Unfair Advantage. Today, I have an incredible guest joining us, Mark Z, a seasoned health and fitness coach, speaker, author, and purveyor of joy. With over 2 decades of experience, Mark has dedicated his life to helping others live happier, healthier lives through improved fitness, nutrition, and mindset. He is the founder of Mark Z Fitness and Nutrition in Frisco, Texas, offering both in-person and online coaching. And he's the creator of the Make America Fit Again program. Mark is also the author of two amazing best-selling books, Make Good Choices and Real Talk with Real Fit Pros. His unique blend of stoic philosophy, relentless optimism, and real-world perspective has helped thousands transform their lives. When he's not coaching, Mark enjoys his time with his wife, Laura, his teenage son, Ryan, and his toddler, Maximus, which is an awesome name. Welcome to the podcast, Mark.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to go somewhere completely different for the intro here, but my son he'll be 2 months old on Thursday. His name is Maverick, and we wanted something like very strong, like that type of name. And then I
Yeah.
see Maximus, and I'm like, that's awesome. So, out of curiosity, where did you guys get the name? Because everybody asks us, like, "Oh, is that from Top Gun?" And we're like, "No, we actually never saw Top Gun before we named him." But
Yeah.
I'm curious where his name came from.
So this is a funny story. So I have two older sons. I have a 23-year-old and a 17-year-old. My oldest son is Mark as
Okay.
well. So he's not his middle name's different, but he's for all intents and purposes, he's Mark Jr.
Yeah.
And then, my middle son, his name is Ryan, but we call him Cheech. So when I got married a few years ago and we got pregnant, I really didn't care at that time what my new son's name was going to be. I'm like, look, I already have a Mark. I already have my middle son. His middle name is Jack, which is after my grandma Jacqueline, who was a huge
Okay.
influence in my life. So I didn't really have anybody else that I was like wanting to insert a name. So I said, babe,
Yeah.
it's on you. So she thinks about it for a while. She comes to me at one point. She's like, what do you think about the name Maximus? Now, oddly enough, we never really spoke too much about the fact that Gladiator is my all-time favorite movie. Like the number one, if I had to pick one movie, it would be Gladiator, and the main character's name is Maximus, and he's a badass. So she says, what do you think about Maximus? And I'm like, well, that sounds good. I like that. Inside, I'm like, yeah, let's fucking go. And so she's like, all right, let me think a little bit more. And I don't know, maybe a week or so later, she's like, I think that's what we're going to go with. I was so stoked. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys experience this, but women tend to be a little shy about sharing the name because they're so judgmental of each other, which is very odd to me. So she didn't really tell a lot of people. Meanwhile, like I'm telling all my dude friends, I'm like, we're going to name him Maximus. They're like, that's the coolest fucking name, man.
Yep.
And he is every bit Maximus. And, it's interesting. And I'm sure you'll see it too, as your son grows, you tend to grow into the name. I think that's been my experience. I think I've seen that happen with other people's kids, but yeah, he is every bit Maximus, running around the house like a maniac and trying to, direct people and shoot us and cut us and whatever. But it's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we kind of had a very similar thing. We had just got married. We got married September of 23, and we're driving around something, and we had been like talking about like eventually having kids and all that, and like we were kind of like by the end of 24, beginning of 25, like we'll begin trying that kind of stuff. Obviously, plans moved a lot quicker than that, but we're driving around. She's like, "What about the name Maverick?" And I'm like, if I recall correct, I probably like slammed the brakes, like, yes, like that's the name. And then we kept it to ourselves until we found out we were pregnant, and we told a few people and all that. And then it was like, we kind of were like, let's not. And then we're all right, let's just do it. Like, let's just talk to everybody about it. And he's obviously only almost 2 months, and we're already talking like, all right, well, now we just got to like latch on to this like Top Gun thing that everybody keeps telling us about. So like we call him Goose all the time. And then like his first birthday theme, we're already talking about being like top one, like Top Gun type thing. But he's definitely my wife was in labor for 44 hours.
Ooh.
And then he spent a week in the NICU. So all of the nurses are at the hospital where they're like, you named him. Like he's just trying to live up to the expectations of his name. Like that's really what's going on
Oh
here.
my gosh,
So
that's great. I love
uh,
it.
definitely already there. So so let's talk about like you and what you do and everything like that, and enough about the kids and their names and all of that. But so why don't you tell us a little bit about like what Mark Z Fitness is, what you do? I like to joke that, you know, I'm in marketing agency. Like there's 1,010 marketing agencies out there. There's 1,010 roofing companies out there. Same thing with fitness and fitness coaches. What sets you guys apart from everybody else?
Dude, there's 3 other gyms in the parking lot of where my gym is located. I'm like, I can look out my front door and there's literally 2 right across from me, and then there's one, like 100 feet the other way. So,
Hmm.
and especially I live in Frisco, Texas, which is a very affluent area, and there's plenty of research that shows that people of a higher socioeconomic status tend to care more, or at least have more means to take care of themselves. So there's a
Yeah.
shit ton of gyms, there's a ton of training facilities around here, and it's super competitive. And I hate sounding trite in the fact that, well, the difference is me, but because that's what everybody says, right? They're like, well,
Right.
they don't have me, it's not me. Look, I've been doing this for going on 23 years now. And at some level, especially in the fitness industry, like most coaches don't coach this long. Most coaches don't have a career that lasts more than just a handful of years because it's hard. It's a very
Right.
hard industry to make money in and make sustainable money. Like you can make money in anything if you market well,
Yeah.
that. But the grind of year after year of staying in this thing, you just don't see a lot of coaches do that. They go sell something else, or a lot of times what I've seen in my career is, because we're trainers, we end up with affluent clients who have influence in some other industry. And they're like, man, I really like you. We tend to have really good personalities. We tend to be outgoing.
Hmm.
And they end up getting recruited to sales jobs and things like that. And they take the money. And I have nothing against that at all. Like, look, if somebody
Right.
came to me right now and they're like, dude, I'll pay you $1 million a year for the next 5 years, I'm like, Simon, let's go. Like, I'll go do
Yep.
whatever. Right. But I think if we're really going to break it down and say what's the advantage I have, it's truly my years of experience, because at this point there's not much I haven't seen, there's not much I haven't dealt with. I have a lot of my own personal life experience to pull from. Yeah, I've talked about this frequently. Like, I'm not a naturally athletic person. I was
Right.
never a super sports star in school. Like, I kind of sucked at sports. Like, I loved playing them, but I just wasn't very good. And I grew
Yeah.
up in a town where we had one high school. So if you weren't, one of the top 10, you didn't get an opportunity to play. So
Right.
I never got to do that. And I have to work hard for my fitness. I have to work just as hard as my clients do. So I can relate and empathize and sympathize with a lot of people and what they're going through. You talk about, being a father. I know what that's like. I know what it's like having a
Yeah.
baby in the house and still trying to take care of yourself, not only
Right.
physically but mentally. So there's a lot of, just again, life experience that I've been through that lends itself
Yeah.
well to me being a good coach, because I've just seen a lot and done a lot over, the span of 20 something years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things. So you and I are part of Adam's personal branding group and all that stuff. And there's a guy in that group who also is a coach and everything. And I've worked with him. He does great work. And like one of the things that attracted me to him was like, I'm overweight. I've been a lot heavier. I grew up overweight, and like he went from, like he calls it, from like fat to fit.
Yeah.
And it's like you oftentimes work with a personal trainer or a coach who, like, they've been in shape all their life. They've been ripped. They've been, athletic, all those things. And so it's like you, in a way, and it could just be this subconscious mental block, but it's like, well, they don't know what it's like to be like what I've gone through. Like there are people who just naturally build muscle better, who just naturally are
Absolutely.
in more shape, and there's people like me who like it's a lot more difficult. I was on a weight loss drug for like the last 2.5 years. Like it, I would be a lot heavier if it wasn't for that drug
Yeah.
and everything like that. So it's interesting you talk about like that you have to put in just as much work as everybody else. Because I'm sure that makes people feel more comfortable, especially those who are newer to the fitness industry or been working out, but like that they're not doing the right things. They aren't, seeing the results they want to see and all that stuff. Like they at least know, like, okay, like Mark gets it. Like he knows what it's like to work just as hard because he wasn't always this way, like as he is now.
Well, and I love food just as much as anybody else,
Yeah.
man. Like I love cheeseburgers and tacos and chocolate and
Hmm.
ice cream and cake, and I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like I'm doing 75 hard right now, but when I'm not on a program like this or training specifically for something, like I eat those things. I don't eat them all the time, but again, I
Right.
understand. I'm not like, oh, you should never have that. No, it's fucking delicious. Like you should
Yeah.
have those things. Like
Yep.
if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, I'd be sad if I didn't get to eat another piece of cake today. But
Right.
there's boundaries that we have to set with that stuff, and there's a
Yep.
time and place for all of it. But like nobody wants a 24-year-old single male life coach. Like, what do you
Right.
know? Hey, we all got the same 24 hours in a day. Motherfucker, get married and have 2 kids and own a business, and then see if you got the same 24 hours. Like,
Yep.
so I do it, but there's a place for the big giant ripped awesome
Yeah.
dude that's always been in shape. There's a place for the chick that is just gorgeous beyond belief because of her genetics and then works hard in the gym as
Right.
well. There's a place for all of us because especially here in America, we look at the population, we're looking at 70% of people are overweight or obese.
Yeah.
And all I'm trying to do is connect with people that resonate with what I'm saying. And
Yep.
the trainer that's across the parking lot to me, who's a friend of mine, who's a great dude, that's all he's trying to do is find the people that
Right.
resonate with him. We're preaching the same message. And
Yep.
honestly, we need more of us preaching that message so more people will actually step up and take action. So
Yeah.
I don't ever, I don't view these other gyms and trainers or anything as threats. I'm like, we live in an area where in a 5 mile radius, there's probably at least 250,000 people or more around me. So there's
Hmm.
plenty of people for all of
Right.
us to completely thrive, not just get
Yeah.
by, but to really thrive and have a business that
Yeah.
we love showing up for.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and the fact that you also do things online like makes it easier. Like you have I'm going to say a quote unlimited bench of people that you
Yeah.
could potentially talk to by doing it online and all that. So um, love the hat. I'm a big Trump person and all that stuff. Not sure if you actually are, but the hat makes it worth it. But like, what is like? Do you have like a program behind like this Make America Fit Again? Like, what goes into that? I was curious as we were talking, so I looked up like it looks like you do have it as an actual like registered trademark and everything. It's like this is protected is what it seems like to me.
It's not yet,
Mm,
but my plan is for it to be. So when Trump was first president, back in 2016 to 2020, at some point I kind of latched on to the theme. I saw a
yeah.
marketing opportunity. I saw an opportunity to stand out for me in the marketplace. So again, thinking about how do we differentiate ourselves? And I live in Texas, which is very largely Republican. But even so, like I still, if I show up with this hat, I stand out. And it doesn't matter whether I'm at a networking event or Home Depot or the grocery store. Like inevitably, somebody points to me and they're like, "I like your hat." And half the time
Yep.
they don't even read it. Like I know they're seeing something else. They're not even reading
Yeah.
the thing because I
Yeah.
know if they read it, because they kind of lean in a little bit and they're like, that's good, man. I like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But, I saw an opportunity to not only market better, but to have a message that really aligns with what I'm trying to do. I've been in this game forever. I have kids that are growing up in this world. We're not getting any healthier. We're not getting in better shape. Our food supply is shit. So, I really am on a mission to help make America fit again.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? Well, we got to get the word out. We got to get people interested. We got to get people engaged. So, I ran with it for a while. And then, when Biden took office, I was like, well, I'm not going to get rid of it. And I definitely saw that, Trump wasn't going anywhere. We kind of all
Right.
saw that pretty early
Yeah.
on. And now with RFK in the picture, I can't remember a politician in my lifetime at that level talking about actual health. I'm
Yeah.
45 years old, so I've seen a few presidents now, and I've seen a lot of politicians. And I can't recall one of them talking about health. People talk about health care, which in my opinion is sick care. And we talk about pharmaceuticals and all that stuff.
Yep.
But nobody's talking about, hey, why do we have things in our food that are banned in other countries? Why do we have such a high incidence of ADD and ADHD? Why,
Yep.
even though we have all this technology and supposedly we're the most intelligent nation in the world, why does our obesity rate continue to skyrocket?
Right.
So when I saw him kind of rise to where he is now and start preaching this message and saying, hey, like, we're gonna do what we can to clean this stuff up, like, I got
Right.
super excited. And
Yeah.
I'm very excited about the next 4 years. They're all politicians at the end of the day. So let's get that out of the way. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm hopeful that there will be some real leaps and bounds of positive change. And so I created this Make America Fit Again course for people to educate themselves on what nutrition actually looks like. So in the course, there's videos on macronutrients, and then diving into proteins, carbs, and fats, and teaching people, like, how do you use that information to apply it to your eating, and what does that look like, and how do you figure out your calories and all that? Because that's a common question I get.
Yeah.
How much am I supposed to eat? I mean, and then the next question is, okay, well, what am I supposed to eat? So I kind of
Yep.
lay all that out in the course. But I also include a lot of mindset stuff, because so many people have a negative relationship with food that was caused from childhood, whatever, or and or they have a gross lack of education on what good nutrition is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't fault anybody, because I mean, you can find a study on Google to back up whatever you want. If you want to claim
Yeah.
that the brownie diet's the greatest thing in the world, I guarantee you can find some information. Well, and if I ate chocolate every day, 3 times a day, I'd feel so much better.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to find that. So my goal is to help people wrap their mind around, what does it actually take to be a healthy human being? And what does it take to be fit for the long term, not for your short
Yeah.
term goal, not to get ready for a trip or a wedding or whatever, but actually
Right.
shift the way that you view health and fitness, and learn how to make it part of your daily routine, because that's the only way that we're ever really going to change any of this stuff, is people
Yeah.
taking personal responsibility for themselves, and then saying, okay, well, what do I need to do? What's step one?
Yeah.
Let me just start drinking more water. Forget everything else. Do you drink water?
Yep.
No. Great. Okay. Start drinking water.
Let's begin with that. Yep.
And then once you do that, okay, well, now what's the next step? Eat a vegetable every day. You eat 0 vegetables. Great. Eat 1 a day. Don't change anything else. And when you can teach people how to do that in this, like, step-by-step manner of quote unquote easy things that seem like, there's not this huge roadblock, and it's not overwhelming, and we're not trying to change somebody's complete lifestyle in 5 days, they
Right.
have a tendency to be able to execute that way better. And then those wins encourage them to keep changing. And
Yeah.
they get a little bit quicker and a little bit quicker and a little bit quicker. And it becomes a little bit easier for people to institute better habits, because they keep proving to themselves over and over, oh, I can eat water.
Yep.
I can drink, or I can drink water. I can eat vegetables. I can go for a walk every other day. Well, that's
Yep.
easy enough. If I can do those things, I can do a little bit more. But people have to take personal responsibility with this
Yeah.
stuff. So I've really distilled a ton of information into this program, and try to make it easy for people to not only take action to get the
Yeah.
course itself, but it's short videos, so you're not sitting there for 30 minutes listening to me run my mouth, because
Right.
nobody wants that. But then again, be able to go implement that information
Yeah.
almost immediately to see the change that they want to see.
Yeah, it's interesting. Which this is water in this cup. By the way, that's something like water was like one of the hardest changes for me. And I read the book Atomic Habits last
Yep.
year, and it was like I had to begin like subconsciously trying to tie drinking water to another habit. So like when I am done working for the day, I have a home office in the basement. Like I make sure like I set my cup in the same place because I look at that place before I get up for the day. And that is like my connection to grab my water because otherwise I won't drink water once I leave my office. And so like I've had to do things like that to make sure that I'm drinking water and everything. But I imagine your course has things like, like carbs are carbs, but there's good carbs and there's bad carbs. And like balancing between those two things. Like I end of last year was working with this coach and like was trying to log my meals and like 2 weeks in, he's like, so you're just not eating, you're not logging your meals, like what's going on here? And like I just basically was like, I'm just not in the mental place right now. Like I just can't get over that hurdle yet to log meals. And so like we wound up not working together anymore, this and that. And over time, or like over that was like October timeframe. It's like November, December. We have our kid in end of November. Going to Christmas time, I began like, oh, let me just begin logging a few things here and there. And like I went and grabbed us like a coffee from Starbucks. Love a white chocolate mocha from there. Like that's my wife's thing, my thing. And I'm like, you're telling me a grande is like 450 calories, like
Yep.
60 something grams of carbs. And I was like, holy shit. And so I just began like, it was like all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start logging things. And like now, like we like log just about everything we're doing right now. And the one thing I wasn't logging was coffee because I was like, oh, I'm making coffee at home. Like I'm just putting a little bit of creamer in it, this and that. Like not gonna make that much of a difference. I'm like fasting energy drinks for the first half or for the first like 21 days of January. And so I've been drinking a lot more coffee instead. And yesterday, my wife walked in our room with a cup of coffee. She was like, hey, have you been logging your coffee? And I'm like, no, like it's coffee and a little bit of creamer. Like, I'm not going to log that. Like, that was the one thing I wasn't logging. She's like, you realize you're putting about 240 calories worth of creamer in it. I'm like, damn it. Like,
you were
no, I'm
having
not.
coffee flavored creamer is what you were having.
Yeah. And so like I've had any coffee days, which is probably why I've been yawning a little bit while I've been talking, because I'm like, damn, I need some coffee or something. But it's just one of those things like you don't realize all that until you begin like logging things. Everybody says, oh, if you go out to eat, like, and you want to eat healthy, eat a house salad or something like that. That's probably worse for you at some places than it is just having a piece of chicken and some green beans or something like. And those are all things that I began to realize through logging meals. And I imagine some of that course like actually talks about a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, we have to create an awareness of what we're shoving in our face hole. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want somebody to feel like they have to log their food until the end of time. Like it's time consuming. At some point it can overwhelm the person trying to do it when they're trying to change all these other things. But the act of doing it is so helpful to start to understand, what do portions actually look like. I see frequently on social media, and I've posted about this, like if you take peanut butter and take a piece of toast and just put peanut butter on it like you normally would, and then take another piece of toast and measure out a serving of peanut butter, which is 2 tablespoons, and put that on the toast, and then look at what you got. And if you look from up top, a lot of times you're not going to see a whole lot of difference. But if you look from, like eye level, like most people are putting 2 to 3 servings of peanut butter on a piece of toast. Because again, it's delicious. That's why.
Yep.
And that's an extra 200 to 400 calories for one piece of toast that honestly isn't going to fill you up like a whole lot more than the 200 calories that you should be having. It's like you're not going to notice a difference in your stomach. It's not like eating 2 baked potatoes or,
Right.
a whole extra bowl of noodles. Like you don't notice it that much, but it makes a huge difference. The coffee is a great example as well. Like, it's liquid, it's kind of flowing through you a little bit, but 200-300 calories every day, that's a lot. And if we're not aware of what that actually
2 cups a day.
You can have your Starbucks instead, right?
Right.
But if we don't have that awareness, if we don't know what does a portion of chicken look like, what does a portion of rice
Yep.
look like, we'll just continue to overeat. And a lot of times think we're doing okay. We're
Hmm.
like, oh, I had a salad for lunch. And yeah, I had a little bit of ranch on it. You just had 300 calories of ranch. You had a
Yeah.
salad with chicken strips and bacon and eggs and cheese, which again, none of that stuff is necessarily bad, but you throw all that on the same thing and add some
Yep.
ranch to it, and now you got 1,000 calorie salad. And it's
Yep.
really easy to do that. So we have to have some sort of a base level of education of this is what a plate of food should look like
Yeah.
when you're remotely eating healthy. Like if you don't give a shit, whatever, like eat whatever you want. But
Right.
like if you
Yeah.
care and you have
Yeah.
health and fitness goals, you have to create that awareness. There's no way around
Right.
it.
Right. Well, I was even looking in my fitness pal, like my breakfast today. Like I had 3 eggs, and then I had two sausage patties, and I went to go log the sausage patties, and it popped up in there. It's like these have 20 grams of fat in it. Your goal is like 44 for the day, and I'm like, huh?
Yep.
And so like, all right, so I guess we're gonna maybe do one sausage patty rather than two, and like my 3 eggs only had 15 grams of fat in it. So like in my entire breakfast, I had 35 grams of fat. Did I need those two sausage patties? Probably not. And tomorrow's gonna be a different conversation I'm having with myself of should I actually eat these sausage patties or not? But it's like it's those little things that like you don't even think about, and it's like okay, like now it makes sense as to why I was putting on X weight or why I wasn't losing weight or why I
Mhm.
wasn't putting on muscle and all those things as you begin to track this thing. And I'm by no means perfect very early on in this process, but I'm already beginning to learn and educate and all that stuff. Is there like um a link or anything like that, like for people to go purchase this course that you have?
Yeah, it's actually make America fit again .fit.
Okay.
That was the one dot something that was available and actually made. I was like, oh, there's a .fit. I didn't even know there was .fit. It's like we all know .com and .net and
Yep.
.org, but then there's all these. There's tons of other web extensions past that. But yeah, .fit was
Yep.
available. I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
all the info's on there and it
Okay.
kind of lays it all out. But I'm excited. I literally launched it right after Christmas.
Okay.
In 24, so it's only been out for a handful of weeks right now, and I've gotten some great feedback so far. But I'm really excited because I needed something that was easily accessible to the masses, to anybody who, even if all you do is just get some education, if you learn one thing from it, like I got a starter kit for $27. Like if you learn one thing from it, I promise you it's worth $27. I'll give you your
Yeah.
money back if you don't think it's worth $27. But like I said, I needed something. I needed some, very
Yeah.
low, like, hey, just get some information and get moving in the right direction. I'm gonna make this as easy as I can for people.
Yeah.
And so that's the purpose of this. So I'm excited to see what happens. I got an online community associated with that group as well. And so I'm going to be doing calls and stuff in that group as the year progresses and really just doing whatever I can to add value so
Yeah.
people can go out and make the change that they want to make.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we talked about the course, like your gym, the online coaching program, all that stuff. You got two books out as well. Like what uh inspired you to write those books? I'm thinking about writing a book this year, something like as a uh topic that I'm kind of going through and everything as well. But I'm interested as to like what drove you to write those and like what they're about.
Well, stop thinking about it and write the damn book. I'll tell you that first.
Sure.
Uh, so the first book, I knew for years that I wanted to write a book. And at the time I was in a mastermind that it was being encouraged for people to write a book. And I didn't want to write a health and fitness book, to be honest with you, because nobody wants to read that. And there's so many of them. Like, oh, another health and fitness book.
Hmm.
So at the time, I had been writing something that I called Mindset Monday for years. Like every
Okay.
Monday, I sent an email out and it was all just mindset stuff. So, whether it was old Stoic stuff or biblical stuff or Jim Rohn or Tony Robbins or David Goggins or whoever, just things that I'd read over the years, quotes and things that inspired me and my take on them. Simple as that. So when I set out to write the book, I'm like, okay, I don't want health and fitness. I love this mindset stuff. what can I do with this? And I started thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, like it's already written. I've been writing for, at that point, probably a good 3 or 4 years worth of,
Yeah.
like blog length posts. And so, I got with the book editor and I kind of curated all this stuff together and said, here, like, what do we do with this now? Now, one of the most influential books that I read on a daily basis is called The Daily Stoic. It's a daily read. It's literally one page, not even a full page of reading every day, and it's had a profound influence on me. And so what I did is I created a 52 chapter book that you read one a week. There's a journal prompt associated with it. So you read the thing, you answer the journal prompt, and then you let it marinate in your head. Like, how do you apply this lesson to your life? How do you think a little bit differently because of what you've just read? How can you react to the world a little bit differently because of what you've just read? Because so many of us, myself included, are guilty of just blowing through books, and maybe you get one little nugget out of there, which is fine, but
Yep.
but you're missing a lot. So I'm like, I want people to really soak this in and implement where they see fit. And that's where the Make Good Choices book came from, was that idea of let's give people a little bit of time to sit with these lessons and see what happens. And it kind of turned into somewhat of a brand itself, because so Make Good Choices is something I tell people when they leave the gym every day as they're about to walk out the door. I'm like, make good choices, and people laugh or
Okay.
whatever. But like, it seeps into their brain over time when they come back and they're like, man, I was going to eat a piece of cake yesterday, and I heard you in the back of my head going, make good choices. And so I didn't. I'm like, I'm doing my job, right?
Yep.
So, I've had a lot of fun with that book. It's still, I mean, in my opinion, it's still going strong. We're not like selling, thousands and thousands of copies,
Right.
but I've sold quite a few. And then the Real Talk with Real Fit Pros book was a collaboration book. So me and my buddy Jonathan Loudermilk at the time we had a coaching group that we were hosting, and we thought, this would be a good opportunity for a lot of coaches to kind of tell their story of, what really got them into fitness, or, the pivotal turning point of their fitness journey or their coaching journey. And so there was me and John, and I think maybe 8 other coaches that all contributed to that book. And that was really fun to put together as well. Not only seeing, the different backgrounds of people, but again, you're looking at something that somebody's going to resonate with somebody's story more than other people's story. So for a lot of us, it became this good marketing tool of, hey, now you're a published author, where maybe you weren't going to write a book on your own, but you were more than
Right.
willing to, write 10, 15 pages to collaborate
Right.
with this, but your name's on the book too. And so, again, looking at how do you make yourself stand out in the marketplace? Well, having a book's a great way to do that.
Yeah.
Because while it seems like everybody's got a book, everybody doesn't have a book. And most of the
Right.
time, the people that we're dealing with, as far as our prospects and customers, they're not dealing with someone that does what we do that also has a book. So, it's one more thing to just kind of elevate us above the next person. So that was a fun collaboration book as well.
Yeah.
And I do have plans to write at least one more book. I have the concept, I have the idea. I just got to get my ass in gear to do, along with the 8,000 other things that we do every day,
Right.
as you know.
Yep.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
write the book, man. It's such a
Yeah.
great experience, and it's something that once it's done, like, no one can ever take that away from you. And I think in the back of my mind, more than anything else, more than marketing or notoriety or getting you
Yeah.
on stages or whatever, it's like, hey, like, my kids are going to pick this up one day and read it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I do.
nobody will ever take that away from me.
Yeah, I do have. I don't know what you call it, the introduction or the
The
whatever.
forward.
I do actually have that written. I wrote that probably between hours 30 and 40 that my wife was in labor, and
Nice.
I'm like I got to do something right now, and she she was asleep. It was the middle of the night, and just like was just sitting in the hospital room, like looking at her and just thinking about like how things were going to change. And I was like, you know what, like I. I got this idea, like I'm gonna get it down on
Yeah,
paper,
I
and
like that.
just wrote it. So uh, definitely excited to see what comes out of that. So last question for you, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. So when I was reading through my notes and everything, completely missed over this, but want to highlight this. Being a parent is one thing. Being a parent, a dad, and trying to be in shape is one thing. But you were a young single dad for a while, trying to grow a business. What was that like, and like, how did you push forward and getting to where you're at now? Because like it's all tough. Like I always like this part of the reason why this is called the unfair advantage. Like shit's unfair. It's just like what you do with it and how you actually can take those things and kind of harness them. And so I imagine like where you're at today, like you probably look back and think to yourself, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for the fact that I went through those hurdles of being a young single dad and trying to grow a business during all that.
Yeah, I think when you're young, so I'm 45 years old right now, and you think you know a lot more than you do, and then you look back, you're like,
Hmm.
wow, I was real fucking stupid. Like, yeah, you don't know shit in your 20s. You
Right.
think you know everything, and then I always say, the more I know, the more I know I don't know. And I
Yep.
don't know anything now, but I know more now than I did back then. And so you
Yep.
find yourself in these situations, and some of it was my doing, some of it was out of my control, whatever. But you deal with the lot that you're given, and I think you go into these modes where whatever you want to call it, it's just survival mode. You're like, man, I got to pay rent next month. I got to make sure the bills are paid. I got to make sure my kids are taken care of. And you don't put a whole lot of thought into it, which sometimes is a good thing, because if you overthink things, you could get yourself in trouble just of,
Right.
of like not doing anything because you're overthinking
Yep.
everything that you're doing.
Yep.
I remember one weekend I had both my boys when they were little, and I had like $20. That's literally like, what was it? Everything was paid, but like I had $20, and my boys are coming over for the weekend. I'm like, what the hell are we gonna do? And I had figured out that we could go to Chick-fil-A, and my little one at the time was still getting like the little kid meal, so that was like
Hmm.
$3.99. And then my bigger boy, he was eating like man-sized meals at that time, and I knew what he would order, and so I knew how much their meals cost, and that if I just got like a chicken sandwich and then mooch their fries, because I always did that anyway, but just
Yeah.
mooch their fries and got a water, like I had enough money for the three of us to go out to eat. Because that was something we did every weekend, was we went out to eat
Right.
on Saturday night. And, I wouldn't say that was like some mind blowing point in my life where I'm like, oh shit, I got to fucking fix things, right? But like, I just remember that because it's like you just figure it out sometimes.
Yeah.
But as you said, like you look back, you're like, the confidence that you have to do that is enormous, because as well as I do, a lot of people don't figure it out,
Yeah.
and a lot of people play the victim, and a lot of people, whether there's parents around or whatever, a lot of people start going to other people for help. And not that you shouldn't do that if you can, but
Right.
that shouldn't be the default. The default should be, let me figure this the fuck out, and then
Yeah.
if I actually really like need some help, don't
Yeah.
be too prideful to do that. But I think just the mental strength that it took over time to fight through those times and be a present dad and be the dad that showed up because I didn't miss things. So I'm
Right.
over here training and trying to grow a coaching business, and I'm trying to pay my bills, and I'm trying to be present for the kids and show up for the Valentine's party and the field day and all those things. But every one of those in hindsight is just like one more notch on the confidence ladder, one more notch of like, I can do this, I
Yeah.
can do this. And it's funny because my wife and I now, we say, I do hard things. Like that's one of our mantras of things that we say, like when shit gets rough sometimes or stressful or whatever. It's like, no, we do
Yeah.
hard things. It's what we do. and
Yeah.
and when we say that, again, it gives that inner confidence of like, yeah, we do hard things. And that could be like, I did this push-up challenge last year and ended up doing 300,000 push-ups in 2024. That's fucking hard to do, right? But it's
Yeah.
like, it doesn't have to be these like, oh my God, overwhelming, my life's going to crash if I don't overcome this. But all those things are what build us. And, people are like, oh, if I went back, I wouldn't change a thing. I'd change all kinds of shit if I went back.
Right.
But I can't. And I know it's
Yeah.
who I am today is because of what I was before. So,
Yeah.
I think we just have to have some perspective in that, and what it really means to overcome those things that, as you said at the time, sometimes you're like, man, this sucks. Like, this isn't fair. No, life is not fair. Like,
Right.
bad things happen to good people every day, and that shit
Yeah.
ain't fair. But we get a choice in how we think about it and respond to it. And the more we keep control over that, the better our lives become.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last thing on your end for anybody who's listening and is looking to get in shape, whether they're local to you or online, what is the best way that they can get in touch?
They can go to markzfitness.com, MARC, letter Z, fitness.com. That has all my info. You can go to makeamericafitagain.fit, or you can find me on the Facebooks. It's like my second residence. You just look up my name. There's only one of me, and I'm all over that thing every day, all
Yep.
day, every day. Those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me. I'm no stranger. I'll respond to everybody. So if you shoot me a DM, you're going to get a message back from me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Mark, thanks again for hopping on today and chatting through all things fitness, nutrition, and mindset. For those who are listening, please don't forget to give this episode a 5-star review so we can continue to produce more episodes like this. And also, don't forget to share this episode online so we can get more exposure to Mark and his fitness coaching program. But until next time, this is The Unfair Advantage.